So one of the bigger stories out of college football is another coach is fired, gone. He was on the hot seat for years. And I think it was mostly because he built up such expectations for a program that really shouldn't have much expectations. Arizona State is an open position right now in college football. Herm Edwards, former NFL head coach Herm Edwards, is gone. What were your thoughts on the decision to let Edwards go? Do you think it was the right call for them?
Yeah, it was definitely the right call. There was a scenario they were going to terminate his contract with cause back in 2022 or early 2022 because of an NCAA investigation into Herm Edwards, where during the COVID dead period of quarantines, he was inviting recruits to Arizona State and basically just like saying to hell with the NCAA rules. And there wasn't going to be a decision on that until next year. So it wasn't like something that would have done
Don't you
anything
know
then.
COVID doesn't exist in Phoenix?
I guess so. It's just Herm Edwards had a bit of a like cowboy. I mean, first of all, F the NCAA. No one should respect the NCAA's rules. And at the same time, like there are certain like rules that you got to at least know and not execute by that standard, because otherwise it's just total anarchy. And that's okay in NIL, but it's not okay with like breaking public health guidelines. But like, so Herm Edwards might have been fired with cause in a year anyways, but based on on-field performance, Arizona State, with that hanging over and it affecting transfer portal and recruiting, it was time. And then when you lose to Eastern Michigan and they're flying the MAC flag all over the field, which someone pointed out that they bring that to every game in case the MAC wins, which means just in case someone brought it to Toledo versus Ohio State. But flying the MAC flag on Arizona State was kind of the ending point for Herm Edwards.
I mean, we talked about it in our Lakers breakdown that we thought the Lakers were finessing people with THT. I think, Herm in his tenure in Arizona was him finessing the entire world of college football and making them think that the Sun Devils were going to become a respectable team in college football.
Works
I mean,
up.
8-5 a couple of years, that isn't bad for Arizona State, right? I mean, okay, let's look at the history of Arizona State. So best finish ever. Undefeated season, 1975, 12-0. Long time ago, 1975. I wasn't even a thought. That was 19 years before I even came to this planet. Okay.
Yeah. And by the way, just as a side note, they named the field after the coach of that team, just as a heads up. Like, I think he ended up going to coach the Baltimore Colts after that, but they named the field after the guy who coached that 12-0 team.
But it's been a long time since they've been at the level, right? Okay. Well, you come back, 20 years later, 1996, they're 11-1, Pac-10 at that time, not Pac-12, Pac-10 champions. They lose in a Rose Bowl. Good season, 8-0 in conference. 1996. Well, at least I was 2 years old at that time. So
Jake Plummer,
we're starting
let's
go. We're starting to get into existence, right? You have a couple of successful 1970 seasons before the 1975 season. Recent history. Well, let's start getting into some recent history. 2014, 2013, a couple of 10-win seasons mixed in there. 2007, they have a 10-win season. A couple bowl wins, Sun Bowl, Peach Bowl. That's all good stuff, right? But okay, so we're saying the peak of them in the modern era as a 10-win team. Okay, that would be respectable in college football. That would be something. And Herm fell short by that standard. 8-5 is your best finish as a head coach at a program that has some latency potential to win 10 games on any given year. That is a failure. And what we consider too the constant merry-go-round of the Pac-12, right? We always joke about how the Pac-12 cannibalizes each other. There is an opportunity there, right? There's an opportunity for you if you are a successful head coach, because what do we consider a successful head coach in college football? Someone that is a great personality that can recruit. Shouldn't that be a guy that has NFL equity? Shouldn't that be a guy like Herm Edwards? We remember, even though this is an old press conference, we all remember you play to win the game. That's still something, that we all remember Herm Edwards from. And if I'm a recruit, I still might know about that, even though that may have been before I was even born. When we talked about this new age of recruits that are coming in, you still kind of know about Herm Edwards.
Also, one of Herm Edwards' interesting strategies, and I really like this part of Herm Edwards and like his development as he went to TV. The thing he emphasized was never going to cuss at players and was never going to yell at players. He was never going to berate players. This was his we're going to change coaching because we're going to be in a working relationship with these
that's
people.
Kind of a dangerous. It's kind of a dangerous environment to have at Arizona State, man. I mean, come on, what's one of the top party colleges in the U.S. Someone has to hold those kids accountable. I don't know.
Maybe it's
because
think
I
his
was
argument
coached
is
hard
that
as a kid.
Yeah, his argument is there can be accountability without yelling at people and berating them and treating them like crap. And that was
I think
his
the
thing.
tough thing is sometimes you do need to yell. So I wonder if he kind of worked in a little bit of that. Let's be honest. If you're in a war room of an NFL locker room or a college locker room, sometimes you got to yell. Sometimes you have to be the loudest person in a room. I don't know. Did his players respect him? Did they enjoy their time at Arizona State? Were they giving him the true effort, the best effort they could? Or was he just falling short in recruiting?
Here's the best way I can describe what Arizona State is. And this is also, I know some people aren't listening to, like, some people don't know college football that well. So let's throw a sport that some people may also not know, baseball. In the American League East, you have the Yankees, Boston, Tampa, Baltimore, and Toronto. In the Pac-12 South, USC is your Red Sox, UCLA is your Yankees, and then everyone else kind of. Colorado doesn't exist. Colorado's just terrible. They're going to finish last place every year. We just don't acknowledge Colorado.
Hey,
but
don't tell that to my man Joel Klatt.
Yeah, but have you seen Colorado this year? Have you seen Colorado the last decade?
Joel knows, but still,
yeah,
the voice of college football, man.
Yeah, and so basically, the best way I can describe it is that the Arizona State Sun Devils should have the expectation of the Toronto Blue Jays, which is, you know what, you're under-resourced. You have money, but you don't have as much money as USC and UCLA. You can be able to compete with them every now and again. It might take years to build the program back up. You might rotate coaches. If your coach does well enough, he might leave to take another job, or sometimes you hire assholes like Todd Graham. Like, that's sometimes the rotating panel, but you should be competitive every now and again. You can beat UCLA. You can beat UCLA is like the Yankees because they just misuse resources all over the place. But you should be able to compete with those guys, especially given how terrible the last decade has been.
Okay, yeah, because the last 5 years, right? The Herm's tenure in the Pac-12, there hasn't been a dominant school. I mean, Oregon, sure, but Oregon still. We talked about the lack of a Pac-12 team in the college football playoffs. That kind of tells you there has been a dominant school. So there's an opportunity for you, if you're doing your job as a head coach, to jump up the rankings just at least one season there, have 1 10-win season. If Herm had 1 10-win season, he might still be there. It might be something that he could kind of cling to. He could say, okay, I'm sending guys to the NFL. I have Brandon Aiyuk, I had Eno Benjamin, I had Keal Harry. I know Keal Harry turned into a bust, but you're still sending guys to the NFL.
Yeah, first round pick.
That's something that, hell, Hook 'em Horns. We didn't do that last year. Herm's sending guys to the NFL draft. See, that's another thing that you get rated on as head coach, right? It's not just wins. Are you sending guys to the NFL? How are your star ratings? Are you those are all things that are kind of like baked into like being a successful coach in college football. And Herm, I think maybe in the recruiting, I think obviously in the winning part just fell short. And I think for Arizona State, how patient should you be? I guess 5 years is fine, right? Five years isn't nothing.
This season, yeah. If 5 years and you're headed for a cliff in year 5, because Utah was going to be better than them, USC's all of a sudden good now, of course, because USC decided to just start spending Boston Red Sox money again and basically just copy and paste Oklahoma. Obviously, UCLA is better now. They're not great, but they're better. And Arizona is still bad, but Arizona might beat Arizona State this year because Arizona State was headed for a nosedive this year in year 5. So that's the reason he got fired, was in not just like you had I think they finished second in the Pac-12 South twice in 4 years, but this year they were going to finish either 4th or 5th. So they were headed for the nosedive at the end of whatever the peak of Herm Edwards was. And so they're going to hire whoever the next coach is. Again, Jamey Chadwell, always available. Go get him. Coastal Carolina.
Kalani Sitake, BYU. Come on. I mean, he's done a good job over there, right?
He's done a great job. It's just that BYU's also headed to the Big 12, and it might be a difficult conversation to pry him away. I mean, if you want to go for it, go for it. Like, I'm not going to say people shouldn't hire Deion Sanders. You should absolutely give Deion Sanders interviews. I'm not saying you shouldn't. Like, absolutely bring in Deion Sanders.
Now, obviously, I don't think that Herm is anywhere close to Deion Sanders in terms of name recognition, but I think that was kind of the hope when he hired Herm, right? He's a name. He should be able to attract people.
He's a guy on TV.
He should be able to attract people just because he's a name. That's why the argument, and obviously his name besmirched nowadays, but that's what the reason people have said even John Gruden would have been a successful college coach, because guy on TV, right? And that, that sometimes that just helps. You get your foot in the door, you get there in front of mom, dad, the player, you talk to them, you could sell them on your program, and they're like, hey, there's that guy I saw Monday Night Football. Sometimes that's enough. And I guess, Herm didn't really take advantage of that opportunity, so now it opens the door for some next coach to step in. And I don't know what the expectation is going to be, because the expectation at Arizona State, I know that they were good in 1975. They're never going to have that again. That's not going to be something that we're going to see from Arizona State again. I think that their best case scenario, like you said, is just to be kind of like good, but never great. And I think that's fine for the Sun Devils.
Yeah, the game is changing now, though, because USC and UCLA are leaving. So now the Pac-12, they're in that group, which is the shell of the Pac-12, and whatever Pac-12, Big 12 alliance might happen. We don't know what's going to happen there, but like Arizona State's kind of just in the shell of whatever's left of the Pac-12. And so that'll make it easier to compete, because they don't have to imagine if like the Yankees traded places with like the Miami Marlins in the baseball divisions, and all of a sudden the whole construct of the AL East changes. But I think that it's going to be fine for Arizona State, and Auburn's going to fire their coach. Nebraska's job is already open. Like, those are better jobs than Arizona State. It's just that Arizona State's going to pick from whatever the next group is. And maybe it's Jamey Chadwell. Maybe it's an assistant coach at Alabama. Maybe it's a assistant coach even at somewhere like Baylor, like what Texas Tech did last year. Like, maybe it's a job like that. Maybe it's one of those Mountain West coaches, although I think most of the good Mountain West coaches have already been taken. Like Fresno State's coach just went to Washington. So there's not a lot of great options available there, but like,
hire Scott
just going to get.
I hear he's available. He's taking calls.
You know who they should hire is Matt Rule. They should hire Matt Rule as their coach. That
Honestly,
would be a great job.
Okay, you know what? I'm with it. He's not making it out this year with Carolina. I know I was high on the Panthers early on, but I'm starting to change my tune a little bit after seeing them play football games. Matt Rule, I think he's going to be on the coaching hot seat moving forward, and 8 straight losses might be available pretty soon to start filling those calls. You might be able to take him in pretty soon here if you're Arizona State. Like it. He's obviously rebuilt college programs before. If you're the Sun Devils, I think that's the answer you have to go. I think he could get you 10 wins. But anyway, guys, I think weigh in the comment section. Who do you think should be the next head coach of the Arizona State Sun Devils? Do you think they gave Herm a fair shot? Are you surprised by the decision? Anything and all things Sun Devils, drop it below in the comment section. Leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on social media at Juju Talk Sports. Find Kyle Ledbetter and his various social media platforms that we have all below in the YouTube bio. Stay safe, happy, and healthy. We'll see you on the next one.